Biff, you fit cunt. How's it going?
Yeah, such a dick. Right.
Other than that, are you all right?
Yeah, I'm right, yeah. You?
Yeah, it's been a tough week for you in the heat and in the various groups. But you're going to have some comic relief for the next, 30, 40, however long minutes this takes.
Okay.
We've got a little bit of a mix of a session here. You've been known in the Dimp ranks as a man who will just put a game down and bin it, basically. If you don't like what you're seeing, it'll be dropped. And I've seen you drop games and bin games when you're probably about 60 minutes away from the end.
Right.
It might even be the penultimate mission. I'm thinking Assassin's Creed Origins here, where you were literally at the very point where it was a 45-minute job to finish it off, and you walked away and said, I ain't finishing that.
Okay.
Now, at that point, you didn't know that was the case, but essentially what I'm trying to get at is it doesn't matter how much time you've invested, as soon as you get bored, you'll walk away from it.
Yes.
And it's probably the only thing I respect about you.
Like they said, probably, not 100%.
Well,
so.
I haven't quite decided. And also the fact that, if I was to tell you that X game got 9 out of 10, if you thought it was 4 out of 10, you'd say no, it's 4 out of 10. So you do stand by what you say, even if generally it's considered a wrong opinion, which is what many people have shouted at. But you've been on a bit of a tear recently of roaring through games and dropping them like they're a bad habit. And we're going to go through some of those, and then hopefully, if we get time, we'll run through a little bit of Days Gone, which you recently reviewed for us and completely crapped on. Because I've finished it now that you gave it to me to borrow, which I thank you for. And we're going to talk about whether that's a fair score or whether I've got a different opinion and things like that. But I want to start with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, because you bought this probably 2-3 months ago, and I've played through it and finished it, and in all honesty I kind of sympathise with you on this one, bidding it, because it's such a fucking long game, and it's not the Witcher 3 just yet. That's what they're kind of aiming for. But once again, I feel like you put a decent chunk of time into Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and as we mentioned, you binned Assassin's Creed Origins back in the day and got a decent way through that. Is this it for the Assassin's Creed franchise, or will you come crawling back at the next one and then chuck that away after 30 hours?
No, I think I'm done with it now. I think unless there's a major overhaul, I think I'm done. Because I played Origins, like you say, quite a lot. And then when I was playing Odyssey, I was like, hang on a minute, I've done this before. So that's sort of why I binned it.
So, yeah, but Origins was the big overhaul, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In comparison to what we had from like Syndicate and Unity before that was a big overhaul. You saying that's still not good enough, really?
It was a big overhaul, but it's quite repetitive.
Yeah.
I didn't really find the story that interesting. And like you say, when you got a game like The Witcher 3 that come out about, I don't know how many years, well, let's say 6 years earlier, and this is not as good, you think, what am I doing?
Querying it, they should be getting better, not going backwards.
Exactly, yeah.
Interesting. So you must have high hopes for the old Cyberpunk 2077. That's the same creators from The Witcher 3.
Yeah, I don't know about the first-person view. I've always got concerns at first-person views. I struggle with them. I like to be able to see my character, see what he's getting up to, make sure he's not up to no good.
It's funny because Adkins said that when the first demo was released, it was a bit like, I'm not sure about this first-person view. I'm not too bothered by it, but I think some people might not be able to get over that, and it might cost them. But
it's like that. What's that game? It was like a bit stealthy.
Deus Ex?
That's the one.
Yeah.
And I thought that would have been good if it wasn't first-person, but it bugged me. It was first-person. I couldn't cope with it.
Oh no, Cyberpunk on the chopping block already.
Yeah, that could be a binner.
Yeah, the other thing is I don't think they'll even adapt it to have third person in it. Deus Ex at least had, when you went into cover, you could see the little fella, you could see him, but yeah, if it was a first person game, if you're not interested in that, it might cost it. So that could be it for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The rumour is the next one is going to be set in sort of Nordic times with Vikings. Now, could that tempt you back in? I feel like you could be a fan of Viking mythology and settings with big beards and big ships and ice and all that shit.
Yeah, that does sound quite good, actually. They need to do something, because I don't know. I just thought it was quite similar to Origins. I know it was set in a different time and it was sort of Greek instead of Egyptian, but it didn't really do a lot for me. But yeah, maybe the Nordic, if they could bring a load of just massive axes, that might change it up a bit. But I don't know if it'd be a day one release for me.
No, I don't think any Assassin's Creed game. Well, it's dependent, but I've not purchased one on day one for donkey's years. Creed Origins, I borrowed off Adkins about a year after it was made, and then this one I got for my birthday, I think. So 20 quid it was, and just chucked through it. But it was so long. It was ridiculously long, like 50 odd hours just for the main campaign, which is absurd. I was getting annoyed at all the level gating. Like, you could only be a certain level to do the missions, or still stand a chance to do the missions. They did do that in The Witcher, but it was never like you always progressed enough where you could just do the story if you wanted. It felt like, whereas this, I was spending 2 hours running around fucking collecting people's bread and delivering it. I thought this ain't. The
thing is, on The Witcher, the non-main story sort of missions, the side quests, were sort of amazing. They were better than the main quests in a lot of scenarios. True. So that's why it was good to do it. But like you say, it's just like bullshit, like carrying water or delivering bread or listening to somebody from a mile away. It's just, you just think, oh, fucking, I could do this in my real life. I don't want to be, give me something I can't do, not something I can do.
Well, that's the Assassin's Creed Odyssey in the bin. It has a chance to make a comeback with its setting, but probably needs an overhaul from your perspective. I would probably play through the next one in the hope that they hadn't made that it's not as bloated as it was. But
another 50 hours.
I don't mind. Right, I don't mind 50 hours, but the 50 hours have got to be interesting. I've got no problem
bread.
Less bread and more action. Like, I look at the Red Dead Redemption 2 open world. I spent 110 hours in that just as one playthrough. But I enjoyed every sort of minute of it. So.
Yeah, I'm the same. It doesn't bother me how long a game is. It just has to keep me entertained. If it doesn't, it just gets binned, as you found out.
Yeah, there's a list here that we're going to do a run through. The next one is Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is the final entry into the Tomb Raider trilogy, like the Origins trilogy, since like the reboot in 2013. Now, I was surprised that you didn't finish this one, simply because, from memory, I felt like you enjoyed the original the reboot when it came out of the new kind of design and the new Lara Croft in 2013. And I don't have much memory of what your thoughts were on Rise of the Tomb Raider, which was the second one. But is that an accurate assumption that you had enjoyed the previous two games?
Yeah, the previous two were good. I quite liked them. I liked the reboot, and I thought they carried it on quite well with the second one. But the third one, again, it was just like, well, hang on a minute, I've done this before. Everything didn't seem as good. I thought the sort of, from how you get from point A to point B and climbing and things like that, it just felt a bit sort of wishy-washy, didn't feel as tight. The combat wasn't as good. The story was a bit shit.
Story was shit.
Again, binned.
Yeah. I mean, it's an odd one because this was actually developed by a different team in comparison to the last two, so it makes sense that you felt like it felt different because there were different people making it.
Well,
and that'll tell you. I thought that they done the combat. I think we both agreed was awful, which in a Lara Croft game or a Tomb Raider game isn't ideal. You're going to be leaning on the guns quite a lot. I quite liked I don't know if you did any of them, the challenge tombs that they had to offer.
Yeah, I did do a couple of those.
They were a bit more of a throwback to, the old Tomb Raiders of raiding a tomb. And people had been complaining that they hadn't had enough of that. And they put them in there. I think that was the best part of the game. But traversal, I agree. Like when you jump from point A to point B, it felt like she was a bit floaty or magnetised to the destination.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You'd think, there's no way I'm going to make that.
Yeah.
And then you go, fuck me, how's she done that? And it was just ridiculous jumps.
And then you'd try and do like one that clearly wasn't scripted and you'd fall down a fucking 1 metre gap.
Yeah.
And you'd think, how's that happened?
Yeah.
But it's not ideal. I finished it. I actually disliked it a little bit to start with and struggled to get into it. But once I just let it go. I did enjoy it a little bit more towards the back end. The story, I think you weren't going to get much out of that, but it was a bit of a step down from the other two, I think, and not a terrible game, I wouldn't say, but still one that wasn't the. I think Rise of the Tomb Raider was probably the pinnacle because it was almost like we'd had the new one that had come out, and then the second one built on that, which made it just a little bit better, and then this one just went a little bit further down.
Yeah, killed their own franchise. Congratulations.
Well, that probably is going to be the last one for a while, so you needn't worry about that coming out again. My assumption is that there's going to be maybe another trilogy, but further on down the line. But we'll see. That could be the last one. So people like you have cost them. They'll see in the data that people have been in it and be like, right, we're not making another one.
Yeah.
That make you happy, does it? That you've cost everyone else that enjoyed it?
Well, I don't mean it's single-handedly me, but it does make me happy because if games aren't any good, they shouldn't be making them because then it just kills the memories of the previous ones. Do you know what I mean?
You're saying it's no good, but it's got an average score of 80.
I don't care what the average man thinks. Do you know what I mean? Look at. We've got Boris Johnson in charge. Yeah, you can't trust people. That's what Superhand says. People vote for the Nazi Party and they listen to Coldplay. You can't trust people.
It's very true. Superhand does have a lot of knowledge that needs dropping on everyone else.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's fair enough. It's one of those things where I could see why people were not interested in it. I didn't have too much of a problem with it, but it wasn't their best foot forward, that's for sure. The next game that you binned is I don't know why you started playing this. In all honesty, I am shocked that you even went back to this franchise after on the very first podcast you came on, you called its predecessor a fat, lazy creed, and it's Middle of Earth, Shadow of War, or Middle Earth, sorry, Shadow of War. So this is the sequel to Shadow of Mordor. And you didn't like Shadow of Mordor. There was no way in hell you were going to like Shadow of War, and yet you still went to the well again and gave that a go, and it ended in tears, didn't it?
Yeah. I just want to just say, in my defence, I've broken my wrist and I've got 6 weeks off work and I'm bored. All right, so I'm just going to a shop, buying a game that I think maybe I like it, maybe I won't,
Right.
and a lot of them I don't. You're right, but there are, circumstances, let's say, as to why I'm doing this. I'm not just some sort of millionaire sitting around cackling all the time, playing shit games with nothing better to do. I have a broken wrist. So these are the excuses. But yeah, it's fucking cack. It is still a fat, lazy creed. It's not changed.
Well, going back to your further point, I have recommended several games to you that you seem to ignore. And I do my best in good faith to find things that I feel like you might be able to sit through. You could have gone back and finished Alien Isolation, got that monkey off your back, but
yeah, I keep saying about going back to that.
And then the next game, you're taking Adkin's recommendations, which is never safe because he loves everything.
Yeah.
You give him, honestly, on Saturday, you feed him a shit sandwich off that barbecue, and he'll eat it and go, "That's brilliant, thank you."
Delicious.
He won't be able to criticise it. But yeah, I mean, I didn't like Shadow of War either. I was okay with Shadow. Fuck me, what was the name? That Middle Earth Shadow of... What was the other one called? You keep calling it that.
Shadow of Mordor.
Shadow of Mordor. No, that is. Or something like that. Whatever it is, the first one of this Middle Earth, I thought was okay. A lot of people were giving it Game of the Year. I think it's because of that Nemesis system, really, which
that
was
Nemesis
interesting.
system is bollocks.
You don't
I
like
think
it?
it's crap. I don't understand it. I don't understand. Like they're going, oh, there's a bloke at the top, and if you get hold of the blokes at the bottom that are under his command, they can change it. And it's like, no, it doesn't do anything. Honestly, I can't get my head around it. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I haven't got a clue. But I just seem to just kill everyone, and then it gets replaced. And then I go, right, well, that's not the way to do it. So I influence them so that they're under my command. And then they just sit around, and then I tell them to do something, and then they die. And I just think, I should have just killed him myself. I should have just cut the bollocks out, cut the middleman out. It would have been easier if I'd have just done it myself. Yeah. It's like you're faffing around trying to hope that this system does something, but I think it's terrible.
Well, the people are saying it's the biggest step forward in gaming in history.
Who the fuck said
Yeah,
that?
no one said that, but there might be some cunt that said it. I don't know. It could be possible. Yeah, I didn't. This was the reason I didn't like this is because when I finished, when I got to like the end game bit, it was 45, 50 hours deep, and I thought that was not worth my time really. I look back at it, so I think in a way you were lucky not to subject yourself to the full barrage of bollocks that you've got to deal with later on.
I've still got it. It's still sat here, but whether it gets played or not, I don't know.
I would bin that in if I was you. And also, whilst we're on the subject of, there's got time on your hands, I don't know why you haven't just got that Game Pass for these 6 weeks.
I can't.
Hundreds of games on there. £1 it would have cost you.
I just can't stand my Xbox. I want to get rid of it. I cannot stand it. Every time I turn it on, there's an error message, or it takes a fucking month to download. I mean, it took, I think it was 2 days to download Forza. I was just like, what is...
Worth it.
Oh, fuck me. Honestly, I reckon it took me longer to download it than I actually played it for.
Yeah. The Xbox is not very good. I had a problem with it last night. I was installing The Division 2, and then I realised there was some DLC for Trials that I wanted to install. So I queued that up, and I was like, well, why can't it do 2 things at once, first of all? PlayStation does that fine.
Yep.
It just slows the speed slightly. So okay, it's fine. I can change it and add the the Trials DLC to the top of the queue. Hit promote to the top of the queue, did nothing, just ignored me. Just sat behind the Division 2 for 3.5 hours, and then when that finally finished, it done the Trials Fusion DLC in 10 seconds because it was tiny. I couldn't force it to do what I asked it to do.
Honestly, it's so shit. I can't stand it. I am thinking about getting rid of it, actually.
I'm trying to think, am I worth hanging on to? Well, I was going to say it's worth hanging on till Halo comes out, but that'll be on the new one anyway, so if you wanted to play that, you could play it on the old one potentially, but is that... I
haven't been impressed with a Halo game in ages.
No.
Since I think, I don't know, Halo 3. So, you know what I mean? Again, it's just, they're just killing their own franchises, just putting it out there, and it's shit.
Murdering them all. Yeah. Does that mean that this time next year we'll be gearing up, there'll be new consoles that you could pre-order and look at getting if you was interested? If you were going to get and jump into the generation, would you not even consider Xbox? Would it be right? It's PlayStation.
It'd definitely be PlayStation. I mean, one from this generation. I know last generation with the 360 and the PS3, the 361 hands down. But I don't know if it was any better. It just seemed like they had better games and better franchises. And then Xbox this generation really haven't, not that I can think of, that's wowed me off the top of my head. Like a franchise just for the Xbox that's really been like a big hit this year. And then you look at PlayStation, they've just got like one after the other. It's much better. So it's sort of a bit of a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, the exclusives definitely have been better, whether it's been God of War or Spider-Man, which is now going to be... They've bought that studio, Sony, so they're going to be making all their games going forward exclusively. We've still got Death Stranding coming late this year, which looks weird. I don't know if that'll be it'll probably sell well, but I think critically it might suffer. And obviously The Last of Us Part 2, which we're waiting for.
But they've got like games like even the Uncharted series are fantastic.
Yeah.
Even though they've got Uncharted 4, that's still a really, really good game. Whereas Xbox are putting... I played Gears of War 4. It's fucking terrible. I mean, it's so boring. And then they've got... what was the other one with the robotic dinosaurs with the bird with the ginger hair?
Oh, yeah, Horizon.
Horizon. Again, another one that I didn't really have a lot of expectation for that. It was fantastic. So, Microsoft...
as well.
Yeah, Microsoft need to pull their finger out.
Well, they have. They did go through a splurge of buying a load of studios in the last 18 months, so that probably won't yield benefits this generation. So this, you might as well put a hammer to that Xbox One X and be done with it. And get some satisfaction.
I'll probably trade it. Trade it. Yeah, I don't think I'll take a hammer to it just yet. Mind you, if it fucking takes 2 hours to download, 2 days to download another game, it might. But
and then I think next generation they might come good with that, but Sony's still got the groundwork laid and they've got the trust. There's even I don't know if you've seen Ghost of Tsushima, which there's been a few demos of, which hasn't come out on PlayStation yet, but that's another exclusive coming down the pipe.
Yeah, I really want to play that actually, but I thought I read somewhere online it was coming out in like August, and then I remember putting it in the group and everyone laughed at me because it wasn't even like. I was like, oh right, okay.
There was reason to believe that, but it didn't come to fruition. And now the rumor is it might be PS5 launch.
Yeah, I did read that as well after,
which I kind of understand why you would do that, because you kind of want something on that platform that's new to sell it. Otherwise, you say, well,
they've done it with The Last of Us. Though, do you remember when The Last of Us come out? It was like it couldn't have been less than like 6 months, and then the new PS4 come out and they ported it across, sort of thing, didn't they? It was like right at the end of its lifespan that they released Last of Us. It seems strange that you wouldn't have just saved that for PS4, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and I'm surprised they didn't do that, to be honest. But they came out in 2013, and I think the new consoles are out that year, 2013.
Yeah,
and then they've done a remaster the following year, so they could have, considering how well The Last of Us did in terms of critical success, if they put that just on the PlayStation 4, they'd have got off to a flyer with that. But
yeah,
I guess at that point you've got an install base of say 80 million, where you can put the game on and it will sell a percentage of that, or you can take a gamble and say, right, we've got an install base of 0 on day one, we'll just hope everyone goes out and buys a PlayStation 4 to play it.
Yeah.
Whereas they can hold it back a year and put a remaster out and sell a decent amount again.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll do the same with Part 2.
Maybe.
If they put Part 2 only on PS5, would you A, be annoyed, and then B, would that force your hand into taking the early plunge?
I wouldn't be annoyed, but I would a little bit, because I think it's a bit rat-like, because they've been sort of fucking advertising it for all, like, rumouring it for a long time now. We've seen sort of gameplay of it, haven't we? Yeah. So you'd think that would be on PS4. But I'm pretty set, unless when they do the reviews of the thing, they go, the PlayStation is unplayable. Yeah. I think I'll get a PS5 anyway. It'd have to be a fucking disaster from Sony for me not to get a PS5, put it that way.
Right, okay. What, and then early on, or would you wait a little while?
No, I'd probably get it early on. I probably would get it early on.
Got it. What did you get it over, like Christmas, didn't you? Like the year it come out?
Yeah.
The PS4. You showed me that Killzone.
Yeah.
You're talking about great exclusives and then scrubbing that off the list.
Yeah, that wasn't the greatest one, no. But to be honest, if you played that, you wouldn't go, this isn't a million miles from Halo. Do you know what I mean? I know it's not got the history and the characters of it, but you wouldn't go, God, the gameplay's so much different to Halo. You go, it's just fucking like a little version of Halo. Yeah. And that was like a nothing game to them, wasn't it? Nothing.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. And like I said, the same team that done Horizon, so unbelievable turnaround from them.
Yeah, they really... Sony must have come in there, kicked the doors out and gone, right, fucking pull your finger out your ass, because you want to see some of the games we've got coming out. We will bin you like that.
You'll be out on your ears, you Dutch bastards. They are Dutch. So Shadow of War in the bins then.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's not going to go. And that franchise is dead for you as well.
Yeah.
I do want to go back to it and just play it for a bit, but it's on that Game Pass, so maybe I will. Just to see, because they made, basically when I played it, they had loot boxes and all that shit in it.
Right.
So
okay.
you could buy orcs in a loot box essentially if you wanted to. That was like a higher level, and you could buy gear and things like that. Since the release, they removed all that shit out of it. So I wanted to see how that manifested itself, because previously it was a bit of a pain in the backside, knowing that it's kind of set up to try and tempt you to pay.
Yeah.
Like it felt like it stretched the game out longer to eventually you'd crumble and go, oh fuck it, I'll buy a loot box.
Yeah, just so I can finish this.
Get this fucking orc in there. And it's shit though, isn't it? Like an orc coming out of a loot box. You're like, how's that work in the game?
Yeah. Sort of ruins the feel of the game a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, the immersion's definitely gone. But I didn't get on with Shadow of War. I thought that you'd bin that and did. I mean, one problem you had early on was you couldn't figure out how to poison orcs. Who knows?
Yeah,
I was getting fucking hounded to tell you how to do it. And I was like, I can't bloody remember. Fucking specifics of that. I think you had to learn it.
Yeah, you do. I didn't know that either.
Fucking hell. I'm going to move on to... This might be the most controversial one, because I feel like the other ones there's precedent for. Previous experience with the franchises and, just fatigue. But one of the breakout stars of Microsoft's exclusive library has been the Forza Horizon franchise. Probably started to gain real traction with Forza Horizon 3, which I have played through. And then we've got Forza Horizon 4, which is set in England and has been lauded by critics from all sides. You know, people that like racing games like it. People that don't really like racing games tend to like it. And it's popped itself out as a 92 average, one of the best scoring games of last year. And on Adkins' advice, you took the plunge on Forza Horizon 4, and it couldn't have been more than 3 days had gone past, and you said, "This is shit, I'm not playing it anymore." What's that? Yeah. Where's it all gone wrong with Forza Horizon 4?
So basically, it ain't a bad game. This is my expectation of the game. So I wanted something like Gran Turismo. So I should have gone for...
Should have got Gran Turismo then.
Well, yeah, I should have got... Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Yeah, so basically I wanted a proper racing game, and it isn't really... I don't feel like it was, because...
It's not. It's an arcade... open world driving game, really.
It's not terrible, but it's just really childish. It's like you'd give a kid as their first game if they got an Xbox on day one or something like that, or for Christmas you'd get them this game, and it's just explosions and cars jumping 800 foot in the air and then landing perfectly, and the setting's really good. England looks really good, and the countryside looks fantastic. I drove around Edinburgh; it looks really cool. And
Edinburgh's in it.
Yeah.
Bloody hell! Is it accurate though? Because last time I went to Edinburgh, there's smackheads everywhere.
Yeah, just druggies all over the road.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does look really good. The cars are really good. The selection of cars is good. But when you're actually driving, it was just like, the only way I'm going to win this is if I go around this corner and use this car as like a buffer battering ram, and that's literally how you won every race. And it just got a bit boring. It didn't feel like there was a lot of skill in it, and the laps are only like 2 laps long. So if you don't do that, if you try and actually do it skillfully, you're going to come unstuck. So yeah, that was more my expectation of the game. The game wasn't bad. It's just that if you're 10, it's probably quite cool. If you're not, it ain't.
So did you play around with any of the open world elements? Because you can like discover new cars if you drive over to barns and like seek out secrets. There's things like speed traps that are on like motorways that you can go through, and you get a score based on how quickly you went through the speed trap. I think they're called speed cameras actually.
Yeah,
and there's random like drift challenges scattered about. Was that not?
Yeah, I've done all that. I've done like the barn challenges where I found like 4 or 5 classic cars that are in a barn that are all like fucked up, and then he says, I'll drop them around the garage, and then like a week, about 4 or 5 hours later in the game, they say, the car's ready, and you go and collect it. I've done the speed trap thing, so there's like an average speed trap, and then there's just one that you just go past it as fast as you can.
Right.
And I've done all the races and had a little drive around, and there's jumps you can do and photos you can do and things like that. But it's just I just got a bit bored of it quite quickly. I just didn't think there's a lot to it, sort of thing.
No, I mean, I played through Forza Horizon 3 from start to finish, and I had the same sort of feeling. I was like, why does everyone else love this and I don't? And over time, I've had a sort of on-off relationship with like racing or driving games. Like back in the day, obviously Gran Turismo was the daddy. I think everyone who had a PlayStation would agree to that.
Yeah.
Xbox 360 had the Forza Motorsport series, which was kind of like the replacement for Gran Turismo.
They were really good. I think I had the first 2 of those.
Yeah, they were. They kind of lost their way a little bit with the latest ones with microtransactions and whatnot. But I've tried all sorts of different racing or driving games. I've tried Horizon series, I've tried the Rally series, the Motorsport series, Gran Turismo. I've never really stuck with any of them. And then I got F1 2019, which I watched Formula 1, so that always helps. And then I realised that actually I don't like racing games per se. Like I don't like Forza Motorsport and Horizon, just racing like a handful of laps and bits and pieces like that. Actually, what I like is the motorsport side of things. So with F1, it's obviously it's a motorsport game, so you do things like practice for each weekend, and then qualifying, and then the race itself. And it's like a big event for the whole race, rather than just being like a quick, okay, jump in, do 3 races and get out. I might jump in and only do 1 race, but I've spent an hour and a half doing all the practice and qualifying the race itself. And I think that's where I've landed. That's what I want to play. I want to play a motorsport simulator where it's simulating the art of motorsport, not just roaring round the back streets of Edinburgh running over smackheads.
Yeah, no, I think I'm the same sort of thing. Maybe not to the in-depthness that you do, but just like doing a lap and then just thinking I'm going to try and beat that lap by a couple of a second or something like that, or and seeing your lap time sort of come down. But with this, it just wasn't like that. It was just like fucking carnage. It was just like Destruction Derby, but just with nice cars, sort of thing. So the thing is as well, I quite like cars, and I sort of I know, like, I'm really sad with like how fast the car will get to 60. And I remember I was at a race, and then I got beaten off the line by something, and I was like, well, that's bollocks. That car is never get anywhere near the car I've got, and that really got under my nose. That did. I was like, that's not right.
Make sure your cars are accurately depicted and getting off the line, otherwise Biff will come for you.
I know they're 0 to 60 times. That's all I'm going to say.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know if F1's right for you, because it's, I think you can play if you want lap times. That's essentially what you've got there, and you can tweak all the settings to make it as punishing or not as punishing as you like. I've had to leave. I was playing it with like a lot of unforgiving settings on, and was just having an absolute howler. I've lightened it up a little bit, and I can actually sort of enjoy a bit of a happy medium with it. But the trouble with games like that is you typically the most enjoyment, well, not the most, but what helps is that I'm a fan of Formula One, whereas you don't know what's going on, who's who, and all that. So part of the appeal of F1 2019 is that it's a simulator, or it's set in the world of Formula One, which I watch. So maybe that's not the right answer. I did table Wreckfest to you because you mentioned that you wanted cars that get damage, and that's sort of like that's what that game was trenched in. But you saw that one track had a loop-to-loop and immediately wrote it off.
It just seemed like Forza Horizon again. There's like stunts like that you can do, and like jumps and things like that, and it's just like, I don't know, really a loop-to-loop. It's not, I don't know. It's not.
I've seen it in Banger Racing.
Have you?
No, but it's probably out there somewhere.
Yeah, someone's done a loop-to-loop, but not for me.
I used to watch Banger Racing, and I might get that Wreckfest, because although I've just said I like the lap times and the motorsport side of things, on the other side I do like, I've always loved the Destruction Derby games. Yeah, I used to like those as well. And that's basically what Wreckfest is. Yes, it's got a loop-the-loop in it, but I think that's 1 out of 50 tracks or something stupid, so it won't be loop-to-loops every race. Not. But there you go. Forza Horizon 4, just for the record, that got a 92 on OpenCritic. Like I said, I don't listen to the man on the street. Well, these are experts. These are not men on the street. These are IGN, Eurogamer, PC. They're all experts in the field. Fuck them. That's them gone. Yeah. Let's finish up with Days Gone, because the surprising thing to me about all this is that we've spoken through 4 games that you've played for varying amounts of hours. Could be 5 hours, could be 15 hours, could be up to 20 hours potentially, and they've all at some point been dropped before completion, or clocking it, whatever you want to call it, whatever designation you're going towards. Days Gone survived that, and yet when it come down to the review, it was cracked on with a 4 out of 10. It was really that's a disaster score. The last score I gave that low was Assassin's Creed Unity, because that was broken. Right, okay. But I'm just surprised that you finished it, given how much you didn't seem to enjoy it. That's all. To be fair, I didn't. It's sort of a weird thing, because I didn't enjoy it. I didn't think it was an amazing game. Maybe 4 out of 10 was a little harsh, but it kept me entertained. Right. But it's just like, it kept me entertained just because there was like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So I thought, I really want to do these hordes. And I just kept playing it to level up so I could do the hordes. But when I'd done it,
I just thought, oh, that's not, it's not left me with the greatest feeling ever. The story I didn't think was very good, really boring, and I don't know, yeah. So I think that's why I kept playing it, because I really wanted that to do the hordes, but I needed all the best equipment, so I had to go through the end of the game. And then when I actually done them, I was left with like a bit of a sort of sour taste in the mouth. So that's probably why.
Yeah, I mean, we might spoil things for Days Gone, so if you've not played it, we'll just get that out there now. Just turn off. Hopefully you've enjoyed the initial babble. Yeah, I've played through it and finished it. I would have given it it would have been, for me, it would have been in the region of a 5 or a 6.
Right.
I mean, I know it's only one above you, but the reason why, so what I always say is the game, when it first gets put in the console, it gets installed, regardless of how long it takes. It's not the game's fault, it's Xbox. It starts off at a 5 out of 10. That's where your starting point is. And then if you're broken, you're shit and you're backwards, you start going down the 4s and the 3s and the 2s of the 1. If you've got competent controls, you either stay at 5 or maybe go up to 6 if it's got good story or good ideas. So I was kind of torn into where to put it between 5 and 6. I do agree that there's some problems with it though in terms of its performance. Like, I was played it the other day just to mop up some like end game missions, and I was just riding somewhere, it just froze for about 3 seconds. And I thought, what the hell's happened here? And it just carried on going. So that's what kind of puts me in more of a 5 type range, but I normally reserve below 5 for stuff that's just outright broken. But that's just the way I do things.
That's fair enough. So what did you actually think of it then? Like, what did you think of the actual story? Did you think good story, or did you think which one?
The story, it's not great, is it? It's a bit by the numbers type of thing. There's no real it's too long, the story anyway.
Yeah.
It's a long game, but not as egregious as some of the aforementioned games that we've spoken about, like Shadow of War and Odyssey, different leagues. Because if you want to do the story in this, you can just fucking get on with it. You haven't got to worry about leveling up. You can just go bang, story, bang, story. And I appreciate that option, because for some reason that's not allowed these days. But yeah, it's weak sorcery, the story. I did like the one thing. It's kind of related to the story, but I thought the voice acting was really good from all the cast. It's not something normally I pick out. Normally it's pretty average, but although perhaps the writing and the actual what was going on wasn't that interesting, everyone delivered like believable performances.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Which I enjoyed. But yeah, the story I wasn't that impressed with. I mean, it was obvious. I mean, you fucking spoiled it in your review that his wife was alive, so I can get 30 hours into it and you'll find out that little nugget of information, or you can just listen to Biff's review and he'll tell you it. So I was kind of waiting for that moment to happen. But you spend like the first half of the game like fucking looking after Boozer, didn't you? Because he's had his arm burnt by those rippers.
Yeah, it's wiping his
ass. Come on, mate.
What do you think of the character? Did you like Boozer, and what do you think of Deacon? I know their voice acting. I thought their voice acting was quite good, actually. Now you said that, it was good. But what did you actually think of him? Did you think, this is a bloke I really like, or did you think, fuck, he's a bit of a wet wipe?
Boozer's just a bit of a fucking. They're not very sympathetic, is what I'd say. Like, they were bikers before, which generally means lawbreakers, probably done some horrible things, and they try and like show that actually they're not that bad guys. But I bet they've been murdering people in the normal world anyway, so you can't trust them as far as you can throw them, really. And yeah, Boozer, as soon as he gets his arm burnt off, he's a liability instantly. Like, he's really of no interest until you give him that puppy, and then he sort of turns and that makes him like a little bit happy again. Because he's like, he has to have his arm amputated because the burns are too bad and whatnot. And then he goes out, and do you remember that mission where he goes out and gets pissed up and you have to fucking chase him halfway around the woods?
Yeah.
For about half hour. And I was like, come on, I would have left him out there.
Yeah, I would have, fuck this.
I would have left him out there, but he's just a very run-of-the-mill kind of, old friend supporting character. Like, Deacon doesn't want to, let him just get left to the wolves, quite literally. But at the same time, he's just causing problems for, 60% of the game.
Yeah.
And then towards the back end, when he sort of sacrifices himself, I was a bit like, yeah, that is a bit sad. But it turns out he didn't die anyway. So I was like, right. So even the one moment where you could have had a bit of impact on this sort of final mission, you've backtracked on that and let Boozer live with one arm still.
Bottled it, haven't they? They want a sequel.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get onto it. But I wouldn't be against a sequel for this, because I think there's some good foundations there. And then Deacon, he's a bit of a weird one, isn't he? He's normal in the cutscenes, and then when you start shooting people, he's just constantly shouting and telling how he's going to fuck people. I'm like, Jesus, he's a fucker, isn't he? He's got some real issues bubbling underneath the surface that he's not showing to people.
None of his wife fucked off for so long.
Well, I just probably wanted to get away from him. Jesus. Wonder what he's like at home behind closed doors. Fuck me.
Where's my fucking dinner, you slag?
So he's not very sympathetic. But maybe you don't need sympathetic characters. I mean, but they're not top draw. But it is what it is for those two. And the characters you meet, I'm trying to think if any of them are that interesting. I quite like that. Is it Schizo?
Yeah. He's the only one that sort of created a bit of conflict and problem within the whole story, I thought.
Yeah, so he's like an arsehole when you meet him at the Lost Lake camp, and it's like, well, he's a complete dickhead, so we know he's going to be a dickhead. And you actually end up going on a couple of missions with him, and then you kind of, they build a bit of a relationship, Deacon and Schizo, where they kind of trust each other. And then he screws you over later on, and it turns out to be just like the grade A arsehole you expected. And I was like, I kind of wish they'd let Schizo have that transformation of going from bad to good, and maybe like Iron Mike sold him out.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more of a shock, but they didn't. They weren't brave enough to do that. I've said it's a bit by the numbers. There's no real surprise that he did that, and I was a bit like, okay. There was an opportunity for him to, be the third wheel in this and be part of the crew, but they've just stuck to him being the dickhead that you saw, as soon as you meet him. But yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a. I'm trying to think if there's any other characters really that stood out. O'Neill, the neuroscientist.
Yeah.
He's okay. He's just a vehicle to kind of track down Sarah, the wife.
You don't ever see his face though, so it annoys me. Right.
So here's a little bit of intel for you. I'm assuming you didn't carry on after you'd finished the credits.
No.
So when you finish the credits, there's two missions that unlock. One is you go back to the army camp and pick up Deacon's rings. Finally, he gets that fucker. Why is he so up about these rings? They're shit. Have you seen him on his hands? They're ridiculous.
I know. If there's a sort of thing, if you saw that in a jewellery, you go, who's buying that? They don't make many of those.
So that's one mission. Like, you literally go there, pick them up, and that's it. And I was like, okay, got the rings back. The other one, O'Neill comes on the radio and says he wants to meet you because at one point he's supposed to save you and Sarah, isn't he, from the army camp? And he comes in with his helicopter, and it's all kicking off, and he just fucks off. So you have to drive all the way up to the cemetery, which is like the northeast side of the map. So I took a trip up there, got fucking sniped on the way, of course, like you do.
Yeah.
So I had to use 10 scrap to get my bike back up and running. Finally got there, and then O'Neill's there talking about how he's sorry about what happened, but there was nowhere to land, all this bollocks, and Deacon's like, going back to his fucking abusive self again. And then O'Neill says, the freakers are evolving. Like I said, we've been doing studies and they're evolving. And he takes off his mask, and he looks like half a freaker.
Oh.
So he's like almost like a half-born, it seems, or like a half-breed, where he's still got his wits about him, but he's clearly infected.
Right, so that's why he's doing the research so prominently.
Yeah, so it looks like the strain is starting to evolve where they're going to maybe maintain intelligence for the next one. So you'll be dealing with not just the thick whores that just trample over each other and walk into your bombs and whatnot. There'll be certain freakers out there that have got a bit more wits about them. Don't know how I feel about that. I felt like I was a bit like, I kind of expected it, but didn't. But they're maybe setting up a part for a sequel. I don't know. What
did you think of the Hordes in the end? Satisfied or a bit let down?
I'll tell you what really fucked me off about the Hordes. It's not the Hordes. It's not the Hordes themselves. It was a mission. There's a main mission. So what I liked about the game was that the main missions actually I felt like were reasonably well done. I mean, there was two kind of types of main missions. One where you went out with someone, where you got to speak to them on the way, and then there was something would happen whilst you was there, and you'd come back. I quite liked those missions because you had someone with you, and it made it more interesting. The other type of main mission was so and so wants you to go and collect some fucking leaves up the road, and there's a fucking million zombies there. Go and deal with that. I didn't like those ones because you were just on your own. You were just doing a fetch quest. And the main missions, when you go out with people, I noticed that your fuel doesn't go down, nor does your damage, which is handy. So you didn't have to worry about that part of it. But there was a main mission towards the back end where you unlock the napalm bombs, and they want you to go and bomb and take out this horde that are nearby. So you go to the mission area. It's dark. I don't think you can change the time of day for that one. It automatically sets it. And to get to that mission, it goes from one mission to another. So you start doing a mission before that, and then it just rolls you straight into this one. So you don't get a chance to prepare or get any of your stuff like that. So the first time I did it, I had a sniper rifle and a handgun.
Exactly what you need for a horde.
And exactly, I couldn't do it. So I had to go back and replay 2 missions to then get like a machine gun and deal with the horde, basically. And then the way the mission was structured was that every time I died, it would respawn me at the top of the hill, which was a good way away, and I had to redo all my traps and set everything up again. And I really got annoyed by that because it just wasted like 5 minutes each time. It took me about 8 tries to do it. So at that stage, I was thinking, these hordes are fucking shit. If I've got to keep going back to this checkpoint and reset everything up and do all this bollocks, I'm going to get annoyed by it. Eventually, I don't know if I cheesed them, but eventually the way I did it was to lure them over like a river where they had to like go above waist height, water, and they'd go really slow. And when they was all bunched up there, I'd just kick the shit out of them. Because it was close to the mission exit, I accidentally drove outside of there when I was about 10% left, and it fucking ended the mission and restarted it. So I was right fucked off with that. So that was my first introduction to the hordes, because I'd sort of stayed away from them until that point, and I thought, oh, these are garbage. But going back and then being able to play them at your leisure in the open world meant that you could set things up and save by your bike, so you didn't have to keep redoing all your traps and bits and bobs, and I enjoyed that a bit more. I think they're interesting. I haven't seen. I think there's that World War Z game that's out, which looks like it has a bit of a horde mechanic, but other than that, I've not seen zombies, or in this case freakers, put in a game with that much sort of effort, and it felt good dragging down some of the bigger ones and taking them on. But what I noticed was I was bumping into hordes in the open world that were really small, and I could just piss them in about 2 minutes.
If you got a machine gun, you could cut through a smaller one, couldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't find too many big ones. The one at the sawmill was big, and then there's another one that you do as part of a mission, where you have to bring that truck in and do it that way. But I felt like they were good, but maybe there's a bit too many of the smaller ones that diluted it a bit. It'd have been good to have like 10 huge ones that were a big challenge.
Did you do all the side missions with the hordes? Like find all the hordes?
No, I didn't. I mean, they all appeared on my map after I finished the game, and there was an optional to find them all. And I found a couple of them to experiment with. I was trying to drag one horde back to an encampment to see if they could get in and kill all the people in there. Not an enemy encampment. This was like that woman up the top.
Oh right, yeah.
In Hot Springs, but I'll tell you what, their defense is, they fucking mow them down. They mow them down, but one shot it just kills them. I was like, Jesus, nothing's getting in there. But no, I didn't go out and find them. But the map would show me like little red spots where the area of where they were, so I kind of knew roughly where they might be.
So if you go to those, that's when you find the real big hordes. That's where the big ones are.
Right. Okay.
So that's what I did. That's why I completed the game, because I wanted to find all the big hordes. I went around and found them all and unlocked them all. And so I wiped all the hordes off in the game.
How did you find that?
It's fucking hard. It's still hard, especially because one of them is like as big as the one in the lumber mill, but they're just in a cave, and it's just like a fucking field. So you can't like slow them down. If as soon as they get out, unless you've set up your defences well and staggered them, they'll just run into you and fuck you over. But so there are some bigger hordes out there. You just have to go to those little red bits and find them. Right.
Okay. Maybe I'll do that and have a little go at them. But I was going to some of those red bits, and there'd be like not half a dozen, but there'd be like 30 in there.
Yeah, it's not worth your time.
I guess I'll have to go out and find the bigger ones. But I like the ones that were in areas where there was buildings to go in and out of, and whatnot. They were probably the best ones. It gave you more opportunity to experiment. And then, I don't know if you played it, but they've recently added like a challenge mode to it, where you can take on like one of the hordes, and the challenge is to do it as quickly as possible, not take damage. So they're adding like new bits of content for people to go through, and that has its own separate progression system where you can unlock like Boozer to play as, or Sarah or O'Neill, and weapons and all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of been added, and I've enjoyed playing that. There's even like a Crazy Taxi rip-off in there where you drive around the golf cart and to drop people off in the zombie world.
Oh, is there? Oh, wow.
But
what did you think? Yeah. What did you think of the bike then in the end? Did you think it was a missed opportunity?
Slow, isn't it?
It's shit, isn't it?
Right, I don't understand this. Like, you upgrade it and it didn't feel like I was doing anything.
No, yeah.
It didn't feel any faster. It felt... I mean, I kind of understand why they had to make the bike slow, because there'll be people that will be crashing that left, right and centre. Like, if it was like a MotoGP bike, you'd be in the trees every 5 minutes. So I guess they had to slow it down. But it really was not... It didn't feel quick at all. And I semi-enjoyed upgrading the bike. I put one custom paint job on it and didn't change it basically for the whole game because I liked it. And you know, I put like mud flaps on it, and there was a flap I put on that stopped water damage getting in and things like that. So I did semi-enjoy doing that. But the bike itself, I didn't have too much trouble with riding it, to be honest. The handling. But one thing I will say about that, and not blowing my own horn, but generally when it comes to GTA, I'm designated driver for a reason. Because I'll get you from A to B safely. You put paper in the front seat and you have us over the fucking cliff. So it might just be that I've gained a skill in being able to drive from A to B without causing damage too much.
Oh, right, fair enough. What about the guns?
I didn't like it at all. Guns are all right, yeah. I mean, once you unlock the MGs and the machine guns, they're pretty good. But there's only really like 3 or 4 classes. They're not, they're not great. There's one of them's like a Tommy gun, if I remember. I was like, where have they got that from?
Yeah. That's like one of the last ones you unlock as well. I was like, this is going backwards. I don't want this now. I've had a fucking one from 2019. Why would I want to go back to the 20s with a Tommy gun? Yeah,
it's not much really to do with the guns, is there? I mean, it's all based on that camp mechanic where you have to unlock camp currency.
Yeah.
I can't remember if you liked or not.
No, I didn't. I thought it was bollocks.
See, I actually, like you, when I first started, I thought this is bollocks. But the more I played it, the more I appreciated it. Because normally what would happen in that situation is you'd have one currency, you get 10,000 bits of currency, and then you'd have to divvy out and figure out who you're going to spend your money with. And that's fine. But usually each camp's a specialist. Like one was had weapons, one had bike upgrades, one was a bit of a mixture. So they had each camp had its own special, items there that you could only get from there. And what that meant was that it made it easier for me to spend money because I knew I wasn't stitching myself up later on.
Yeah.
So if it was a shared currency, I'd be like, I don't know how much to spend here at Hot Springs because I know that I've still got to upgrade my bike with Copeland, for example. But because they were separate currencies, I knew whatever I had, I could just spend in there. And I knew that's the bike camp, that's the weapon camp, that's the resource camp. So I'll just go full hog at them, knowing full well it's not going to cost me on either of those kind of brackets.
Yeah.
So over time, I actually almost preferred it, but I can... it's still not great, but I think for me, because I'm always worried about overspending somewhere and not having enough money to upgrade something I need later on, it kind of removed that worry for me.
Yeah. So if it come out, say if they made another one, would you be interested in it? They do make the sequel.
I think so, because I still think they've got a good foundation here.
I think they have. I think the premise of it and the sort of the basics of it, quite
4
good.
out of 10. You can't say that now.
No, it is like the hordes and the story and what they've set out is the bait is quite good, but I just feel like they missed so many opportunities. There's just so many. If they'd have just played Red Dead Redemption and gone, do you know what? Let's make the horse like the bike. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Something simple like that would have been so much better.
Yeah, I mean, the bike could have been better than a vehicle. It could have been like a little hub so that you could have gun holsters and put things in there so that when you rocked up somewhere, you're like, oh, fuck, there's a camp here. I'm going to get a sniper rifle out. Because remember you mentioned in your review, you'd have to go out and then you'd stumble over something and be like, right, I'm not equipped to deal with them now.
Yeah.
I've got the wrong type of weapon. So the bike can definitely be made a hub. And bits and pieces like that. They've got, like you said, a good setting and a good foundation there with the freakers and why they are how they are. I like the fact that time of day mattered as well. I don't know if you noticed that, but going out at night there was freakers everywhere.
Yeah,
going out in the day you'd run into more sort of human enemies. So pick your poison on that one. But I think it needs a bit of polishing up. Like we mentioned, there's a couple of moments where it just freezes for several seconds, and just perhaps don't make the game as big and just make it a bit more polished and a bit focused on a good story and interesting situations. Keep the horde mechanic, expand on that, upgrade the bike so it's useful, or give me an option to drive a car maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know why these people... There's no reason yet I've been given that why people are only driving bikes around this place.
You don't see a single car on the road either, do you? There's a couple in the camps, but they're just sat there doing nothing. Another thing I thought would have been good is to have different, so maybe styles of bike. So maybe have like a scrambler, a chopper, and like a MotoGP, and they'd all have different sort of pluses and negatives.
Well, that's fucking Deacon's fault, isn't it? 'Cause he's like, oh, my bike.
Yeah.
My bike. It's like he has to just have one bike. It's like, fucking hell, mate. Give us some options. But yeah, if you had like... It'd be good to have one that was a bit more robust for like ramming them.
Yeah.
That didn't lose speed.
War bike or something like that.
Yeah. Scrambler for going off-road and, you know, being a bit more agile, and then like a little happy medium bike. Like maybe they have different... I don't know, like... You can only put so many guns on the scrambler, but on the bigger, slower bike, you can put more stuff on it. So if you want to cover yourself, you take that one out.
Yeah.
Because again, we look at Red Dead Redemption. They done it with the horses, didn't they? They all had different attributes. Some were quicker than others. Some were like war horses, and you could sort of choose one that you felt comfortable with. Whereas just having this one bike to upgrade was a bit like it's not going to change. Even the nitro boost didn't feel quick.
No, I mean this is my thing that I just think these people that make these games just go to Rockstar, play one of their games and go, right, we're a fucking million miles away from them. We need to really pull our finger out because this is a fucking disgrace. I just can't believe no one's doing that. They've got their head up their arse and they just go, you know what, bollocks, I can't be bothered. We've done this. That's as good as it's ever going to get. I don't understand what they think they're going to... You know, like, oh, we really care about the game and, you know, we've put this mechanic and, you know, they do interviews and things like that. And I think if I was the interviewer and I worked for, like, I don't know, some IGN or something like that, I'd go, have you played Red Dead? Yes or no? And they go, yes. I go, is it as good? No. Right, then go back and sort it and then come back to me in 2 years' time when it's as good as that.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I would say is that Rockstar only seem to release a game once every half decade. So what that would mean is that you'd get, I don't know, much fewer games out, and maybe they'll be of the quality of Rockstar, but they might not have the skill to do it, so it might just have taken 5 years and it's actually just as bad still.
I suppose.
They do. I mean, when was the last... I mean, they done Red Dead Redemption last year. Before that, they done GTA, which was 2013. They're not quick, these guys, and it's because they take their time on the games and are able to iron out everything, whereas most... I think Naughty Dog are now in the mode where they're taking their time with The Last of Us. You know, it's been a long time since that, so they're kind of taking that approach. But some developers don't have that time. They're like, right, you said you'd get this out by 2019, get it out, and they have to just sort of have the plug pulled on them. Otherwise, you could spend endless amounts of money trying to fix everything and not get anywhere.
Yeah, I suppose. I sort of see what you mean, but I don't know. Just think, play Rockstar. Play a Rockstar game. Is it as good? Yes, right. Put it out.
Like, release it.
How much does it cost me? Billions. It's cost you. You'll never make a profit on it.
But we'll be happy.
Yeah,
and that's all that matters. But yeah, I think that with Days Gone there is potential. It's like I said, a bit too long, and I think they spread themselves too thin, trying to do too many different things. But if there's a second one coming out, I think it's sold pretty well, so it probably will. Then hopefully they can just learn from the mistakes and the feedback and crack on and make it a better experience second time out. Just before you go, I did want to quickly just do a new little feature we've been doing. I should have done this when we did the review itself, because that's where it fits in. But essentially what we do is, at the end of someone's review, we go to OpenCritic and choose like 4 or 5 sort of review little summaries, read them out and get your feedback on it and whether it's accurate or bollocks. So it depends how in line you are with them as to what your answer is. But we're going to start with IGN. This is Lucy O'Brien. She gave it a 6.5 out of 10. So actually that's quite low for IGN. So you might get something good. Fun in small bursts, but Days Gone's repetition, bland world and Mandarin story make it for an unremarkable ride.
All right.
Accurate?
Yeah, just 6 out of 10's a bit high. You've given it that review. Why are you giving it 6 out of 10?
It's true. Leon Hurley at Games Radar, he's using the star system. So we've been through this in that group. 4.5 stars.
What, out of 5?
Yep.
Fuck me. He must have been pissed at his head. 4.5 stars.
You're pissed out your head, Leon.
So, bearing in mind, he would have given Rockstar 5 out of 10. If I worked for Rockstar, I would have then gone, right, so half a star. You're going to give him half a star less.
Sorry, it's 3.5 stars.
Right, fucking.
That's still too high?
Well, what's that, 7? I suppose it's
That's
not.
egregious.
Yeah. I think that's high.
I mean, I don't think he's written a lot. All we've got is Days Gone is a keen and engaging open world zombie adventure despite some issues. No detail. You need.
Yeah. Pick the bones out of that.
Metro Game Central, Edkin's favourite place, 6 out of 10. A peculiarly constructed open world game that sidelines its most unique features in favour of generic action and unengaging storytelling.
But again, if you're giving it that review, why are you giving it 6 out of 10? That would tell me it's better than average. So you give it a fucking shit review and then go, better than average, though. Interesting. But below average, surely. That if the main bit about it's sidelined, the story's shit, the game's shit, 6 out of 10. That would mar everything above 6 out of 10. I'll go, well, 7 out of 10. What's that then? Is that going to be
Game of the year?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 7 out of 10. Game of the year.
That's what that is. Matthew Cato, Game Informer, this is the last one. 7.8 out of 10.
Ugh.
This is the big one. Surviving the zombie throngs can be a thrilling experience, but the story and open world structure come in second.
Again, nearly an 8 out of 10. But let's just round it up. 8 out of 10. But again, story shit. Zombies are fairly exciting, but it's not a great play. 8 out of 10. What are you doing? How are they getting these jobs?
Well, one more, because this is more in line with probably what you'd score it. This is GameSpot, Cali Plague. Days Gone, this is 5 out of 10. Days Gone has its exciting moments, but it fails to say anything interesting or meaningful about its story and characters.
Well, yeah, that's well done. At least she's given it the right score for the review. Do you know what I mean? She shat on it, but then she proved that with the score she gave it. She didn't go, absolute rubbish. 8 out of 10.
No.
So, well done, Callie. I think that was her name.
Yeah. That's it. I probably pronounced it wrong, so it probably isn't that. But there you go. Well, that's Days Gone. It will forever go down in the book as the joint lowest score in Dimp's history until something else comes along. But that's what we have to deal with. Biff's scoring mechanism is harsh, as we've noticed. It's on par with Assassin's Creed Unity. I still can't decide whether to give it a 5 or a 6. I'm stuck on that.
Well, if I had to, say now, I'm saying, right, you've got to. There's £1 million, I'll give you £1 million, score it.
Just looking at some of the other stuff that's in that ballpark. I enjoyed it more. 6. 6,
okay.
I'm a bit more lenient. Because I say it starts on 5 for me, whereas I think for you it starts at 1.
Yeah.
It has to fucking scrap its way.
You have to prove yourself to me.
But that's crust for you. Right, thanks for that, Biff.
No worries.
I'm sure it was a bit of a... Not as long as 8 weeks. So you must have done well last time. On YouTube, that review is the best performing.
Is it?
In the last... Well, I mean, don't take credit. It's normally the game that does it. You could type... it could be anyone on the platform. But Days Gone, there was people looking for it. So
I suppose because that bloke, you reviewed a game and it was like 5 years old or something, didn't he? And he like bollocked you on Twitter or something.
Yeah,
didn't he?
McWomble didn't like it. That's why you're reviewing 5-year-old games. I was like, well, there's still people out there that might want to buy it. Is it worth your time? Not worth your money? We're not all getting stuff day one. But just before you go, what's on the agenda going forward for the gaming space? Because we've gone through a lot of stuff that you've thrown away. Is there any semblance of hope for the developers that you're going to pick something up in the next few months and play through it and enjoy it?
Probably not. Maybe that the Jedi game, Fallen Order, is it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's probably the next thing I got my eye on. That's the next one.
I've just started playing Control, which is a new game out. I think you would like it, but I think you'll be put off by the weirdness of it.
Right.
So it's just a little... And I'll be on holiday for a week, so if you want to borrow it and have a go at it, you'll probably be bored of it by the end of the week. So
you'll come back and go, I sold it. It's terrible.
Yeah, hang on. But I think that's got potential in it. But it is fucking weird from what I've played so far.
Right, okay.
It's the developers from Alan Wake.
Oh, okay.
And Max Payne and Quantum Break. So got some pedigree there. Anyway, I'll let you go. Thanks for that, Biff. We'll speak again soon. And then everybody else, as usual, thanks for your time and ta-da.